Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com, part of the Paramount Podcast Network. I'm Mike Casaz, back at home on a rainy Saturday evening here in Morgantown, West Virginia. That over there is Chris Anderson. He's always been at home in Richmond, Virginia. What we both have in common here is we sat through 2 hour and 19-minute weather delay in Morgantown as number 8 Penn State rolls over West Virginia 34-12. Chris, just some historical notes here to begin with. 50th all-time win for Penn State in this series. West Virginia has 9. The 140-yard streak for West Virginia, which is this crazy achievement that they conjured up, but also earned, don't get me wrong, and it made it on the television and on the Chiron and all that stuff. That ends. They do not get 140 yards, so that is over at 16 games. 0-1 for the 4th straight year. That has never happened in program history before. They were 0-3 in 19, 15, 16, and 17. No season in 2018, so we'll never know thanks to influenza. And then 0-1 in 59, 60, and 61. They won their first game in 62. 0-1 now with successive losses. Maryland, Pitt, Penn State to start the season. And this just kind of extends the misery for Neil Brown. He's 3-7 in openers now. He has not beaten an FBS team the first time he's played an FBS team in a season. That is 0-10 now. And just to be frank, they were not close in this one, were they?
No, it never. I mean, the only time it felt close, where you could even talk yourself into it, I think, was once it was 13-6, and even then was, well, yes, it's one score, but can West Virginia get a touchdown? I don't know, and it didn't take long to make that a non-issue anymore, as West Virginia in turn gave up another touchdown to go down 2 scores, which there was little to zero chance they would ever come back from that. And yeah, just never felt close. Just never. Something just didn't feel right. I think, Neil Brown touched on it in post game, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but it was the spots where you were concerned about this matchup, they were there. And the spots where you weren't as concerned, they were also there
Yeah.
in a bad way. So just nothing going right for West Virginia today.
Feel a little foolish because this is one of those things where people can accuse the fans and media of the same things. And not that you drink the Kool-Aid, but you certainly start to believe the hype a little bit. And I'm of the mind that West Virginia's had a very good offseason, that they addressed a lot of their soft spots and they shored up some weaknesses, but they also kept their strengths their strengths. They added where you thought they might be good or where they thought they were good. At receiver, for example, at tight end, for example. Address, like I said, some weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball, particularly in the secondary. But you also watch a lot of football. Like I said, we saw plenty in the spring, but more formative football in the summer, more than 5 hours of football. And I saw plays, I recognized formations that are on the field today that I saw throughout the camp. The trouble was that West Virginia wasn't playing West Virginia today in some regard. West Virginia was playing Penn State. I don't know where to stand on this because that's a really good team they played that can counter their strengths. So their run defense, pretty stout, stopped West Virginia's running offense. They had a scheme that was designed to keep Garrett Green under wraps, played a lot of cover one and spied on him. And Garrett Green, for whatever reason, couldn't, wouldn't, didn't, shouldn't go deep. But the game plan seemed like it worked there. And then, like you mentioned, some of the spots that were supposed to be good, like the additions or the strengths, just didn't have good games. So some of it was unexpected and out of character, but it kind of goes back to this. How unexpected, how out of character is it if you were suspicious of the team's achievements last season and hype in the offseason? If you are in the corner wondering, why are they 7th in the preseason poll in the Big 12? Why aren't they ranked? Everybody else on the other side of the room is saying, this is what we were talking about. And maybe that's unfair when you play a top 10 team in the opener. Maybe that's reality too. And the funny part is this will be skewed again next week because they'll rough up an FCS team and everybody will feel a little bit better. And Neil Brown will say something like, boy, I really wish we had this first game out of the, second and the second game first, so we could have gotten some of the wrinkles out. Maybe they wouldn't be so anxious. He said anxiety today. He said his team was pretty much bothered by the occasion, which when you think about how they spoke in the preseason, that seems like it's out of character to me too. How do you handle success? They didn't do it. And then when they struggled today, they didn't have a way around that. And then you can probably count on one hand the number of players who had like quantifiably good games today, and that's not nearly enough.
Yeah, coming up with the stock up, stock down part right as soon as the game ended, that was a little difficult. There was a lot of
Divisive too, huh?
a lot of down, I felt like, and yeah, and divisive, yes. But to your point about, hey, the haters, the non-believers in this program and what's happening, the first thing that a lot of people said was, hey, West Virginia played two ranked teams last year and they lost by 62 points. Now they played one this year, they lost by 22 points. Bad news for West Virginia is currently they have four more left on the schedule, so they're going to have to figure something out between now and then. What did you think of Brown's comments in the post game? He said he was talking to, I believe he said he was talking to Ren Baker right before he came out to talk with the media, and said, the thing about it is, if you don't, let me pull this code up. Something about if you don't, it's easier if you see it coming because then you can do something about it. But he did not see this coming. He didn't, especially on offense. That seemed to even shock even him. What do
Look,
we,
that's a bad sign because you should know your team.
right? I was gonna say that's where I was kind of getting here. Is like, do we take more from this because of those comments that this was so stunning to even the coaching staff?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to, I guess, and I didn't articulate my point, but I feel kind of weird, like I was misleading people because I do think they have a good offense in there somewhere, and I'm not sure today was a good indication of that, or even like a vindication of the fact that it's a bad offense. It just didn't seem like it had a lot of plans for a lot of moments. Like, what was their short yardage plan? How are they going to get Garrett Green going in the running game? Just little things like that. I'm not sure that they were fully prepared for, which means that, yeah, they were not prepared for negative reactions. They were not prepared for the team to be awestruck by a defensive end or a safety or somebody who's having a really good game. And, we can circle some moments there. I'd like to get to one in particular here in a little bit, but I did think that was a revealing comment because they spent a lot of time around this team and they're pretty proud of their preseason and how physical it was and how much good on good football they played. And again, I don't know. I'm not joking here. I don't know if how much of it is a result of West Virginia playing West Virginia that skews some results. That might be part of it. And West Virginia clearly not Penn State, so they didn't play Penn State in the preseason. So maybe you have some fool's gold there, and maybe that was kind of brought to the surface today. I think that some of the stuff he's talking about is just their responses to adversity, and they've I don't know how adverse last season was. They had a Hail Mary. They were under 500 during a pretty important part of the season. They got hot at the end and went 5-1, so you figured they did okay. They just haven't been challenged by a team this good in a while. It's one thing to get challenged by UCF or Cincinnati. That's a top 10 team over there that has, legitimate blue chip personnel and also good coaches who know what they're doing. And they had a good plan today on offense and defense. And I can't break down the special teams for you, but I wonder though, Chris, if that whittles it down to too fine of a point. That's one of my reactions to this. Yeah, it's alarming. It gets your attention. It does worry a little bit. Does that redirect blame from some other issues? Like, oh, I didn't see this coming. You go, oh man, weren't prepared. I didn't know their team's pulse, whatever. Well, yeah, but like, what if they didn't see it coming because they were just doing the wrong stuff or they didn't do what they needed to do? I think that's something that would take some examination.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that right there because there's a few different things that happened throughout the game, certain plays, and it seemed to be on all different facets of the game that just made you say, wait, huh? Um, First off was again, Brown was speaking in general about the whole team with some of those comments, started specifying about the offense there. And then later said something about the snaps. And he said, that was something that they didn't have any problems with during fall camp. No issues with it. Otherwise, I think otherwise we wouldn't have done it or something of that nature is what he said. And then he said, where's that? So it was extremely frustrating. We're a team that motions and shifts a bunch. The two bad snaps, we were going to have really positive plays, but then we had those snaps, we got away from it. So they changed their entire offense because they couldn't figure out the motioning and the shifting and the snaps, which seems like the most basic part of, any offense, the start, if you will, of any offense.
Well, I mean, that's how they gain advantages. That's how
Yeah.
they flip lines. That's how they get more people on one side of the field than they want to. That's how they create misdirection. Like if you can't run split zone, Chris, and you can't have a tight end kick across the line of scrimmage to take the unblocked defender, that takes away part of your running game, especially when you're an inside zone, outside zone team. So that motion is important. And if you're spooked because your quarterback can't tell the center when to snap it right without hitting a guy in motion, and again, it wasn't they flinched at one. They had a couple of bad snaps, and they weren't going to risk that anymore because how many more at that part of the game until you create a big deficit that you can't get out of on your own miscues, and they weren't going to do that. So yeah, little things like that they just you don't see it coming, and then what do you do? Like it's one thing to know when the boogeyman is under your bed, but when he's in your closet or when he's hiding around a corner too, and you're not ready for that, it still scares the heck out of you.
And it kind of just keeps going with the other sides of the ball. He mentioned that deep pass play right before halftime with Aubrey Burks. Again, I think a lot of the fans were, hey, what are you doing with press man coverage, all this? He said they were in cover too, and Burks that pass should have never been completed. That is the pass that they completed was pass that is specifically taken away by that defense. And then you go and look at some of the special teams. Zero punt returns today. One, solid job by the punt team for Penn State. I thought the punter did a nice job. They did the same exact thing every single time. They rolled to their right, slowly piddled around a little bit to allow their coverage units to get down there, and then punted it. And Preston Fox had zero chance of making any returns. And this kind of goes to my point of what we are just talking about there. There's no adjustment. It was just like, hey, they're going to keep doing this, and they're going to keep pinning West Virginia deep. They're going to keep negating any potential return or improvement in field position. And that was it. It was
And
just like that was Penn State's move, and West Virginia's counter move was nothing. And I think again, it's those little things that were kind of alarming to me today from the game.
can we get to some dynamics here that I think stand out and right away to me?
Mhm.
And maybe I'm whittling it down to too fine of a point here, but the first series for West Virginia, the first play, they dial up that home run ball from the bowl game. If it wasn't identical, it was pretty darn similar.
Yep.
And it's right there. And it's the throw is not perfect, but it's good. The route's not perfect, but it's good. And the safety makes a really good play and the ball breaks it up. That's close to a big play. They have an outside, I think it's an outside play to it's an outside zone play to Jaheim White. It's a handoff, and he breaks through. He gets 12 yards. He's one-on-one with the safety, and he can't shake him. It's a 12-yard game, but it could have been a long, long run. It could have been a touchdown. They run a screen play outside to Cole Taylor, and this is one of those things I saw them run again and again and again in camp. And I raved about one time that Jen Ross ran that play and looked great doing it, and that was like one of the things that I saw. So I know they work on this, but the same safety who breaks up that play to start the game, he for some reason kicks out the blocker way outside, which he's supposed to block the guy that ultimately makes the tackle on Taylor. So just little things they're so close. They're so close to making big plays there. And you say, well, I mean, you know what? Bad luck, bad luck. But also Penn State made those plays. And I think in a lot of situations you could say, oh, you know what? And Brown projecting quite a bit here too, Chris. On one of the bad snaps, he said they had a big play dialed up and they're gonna get a big game, but the snap went awry. I don't know about that, especially after watching the way Penn State tackled and played in space today on defense, which is pretty impressive. That's how small the margin was, I think. And it became apparent to me like, boy, this isn't a fluke. Like they can't even play on defense and they have some talent. They're gonna be able to make plays against West Virginia's playmakers. And then, until the middle of third quarter, Chris, the longest play was a 25-yard pass play, and that was a batted ball to Cole Taylor. It took him forever to get on track on offense. By then it might have even been too late because Penn State was kind of in their groove and they were ready to go. And it just occurs to me that sometimes you can say, yeah, we screwed up, we didn't execute well enough, but the other team was there and came ready to play. And I just think they were much sharper. They were much more disciplined. They made fewer mistakes and they made more mistakes count. And that's obviously a winning formula against any team and for any team, but it was just enough today and it was conclusive that there was going to be no funny business here. Like the better team played better and won the game and deservedly so.
And it really felt like that too. Just the things you're pointing out there, some of that stuff that's just these are one-on-ones, and this is something we've talked about almost every year now. Like you can blame the coaches, you can blame the schemes, you can blame the play calls. Regardless of what your thoughts are on that, a lot of these situations just end up with a football player from team A going up against a football player from team B. Who is going to win that matchup? And whoever wins that singular matchup is going to decide what happens on that play, which could decide what happens on that drive,
Mhm.
which decides what could happen on that game. And seemingly every time those situations occurred, Penn State's player came out on top. Almost every single time, even when it was some of West Virginia's best players, it was Penn State's guy that came out on top. And I just don't think there's any denying that.
And if you want to, again, I don't want to single out Brandon Needs here, but here's a small thing that was big again because we are going to keep an eye on the center. But if you watch Jalen Anderson's first run, I have it circled here with 5:13 left in the second quarter. White's out at this point. Donaldson's played a little bit, but they put Anderson in, and it's an inside zone play. And all Yates has to do is turn his defender inside, and Anderson's out and around the corner and up the field. It goes for a 2-yard gain because the defensive tackle wasn't going to have it happen, and he was going to get outside, and he wasn't going to let Yates twist him inside because he knows that alley opens, and it's close. It's really close. Like they get 2 yards, it could have been 20. Who knows what happens if Anderson gets in the open field and ends up being two, and then nothing happens in that drive, and ultimately they had to give it back, and then Penn State scores the end of the half. I think they get 3 points actually out of that, but maybe it's seven, and again, small margins, but a guy makes a play too. So um, now was that unexpected? I don't know too, but another thing, Chris, first downs.
Hmm.
West Virginia's plays on first down, the execution, the play calling, pretty bad. Here's just the first half, okay?
Yep.
West Virginia's yardage needed on first down. Excuse me. West Virginia's yardage needed on second down in the first half. Are you ready? 10, 9, 19. Sorry, 29 because they lost 19 in a fumble, so don't worry about that one. And then either 21 or 16 because they lost 11 in a fumble but got 5 back on a false start. Need 11, need 10. We're just going down the list here. 10, 10, 10, 7, 5, 9, over and over and over again. Second and long, second and long, second and long. So observationally, I'm wondering, all right, is that just me? It's not just me, Chris. I went and I looked at some of these things because I had a whole bunch of time, and then I tracked the rest of it. This is wild. Okay, West Virginia had 29 first down plays and gained 87 yards. Penn State had 28 first down plays and gained 224 yards. 3 times the yardage on one fewer first down snap. Okay. West Virginia's average gain on first down was, let me see here, 3 yards. Penn State's was 8. You know how easy 2nd and 2 is? Do you know how difficult 2nd and 7 is against Penn State's defense? It's
Right.
hard. And then, 18 pass plays, 18 first down plays for Penn State. They threw it 9 times. They ran it 19 times. They gained 118 yards running the ball on first down. West Virginia ran the ball 18 times, one fewer. They gained 48 yards on first down. So one fewer yard, 70, one fewer carry, 70 fewer yards. Penn State won the game on first down. And I'm not sure, maybe that's too simple. Maybe West Virginia lost the game or contributed to its demise on first down. I guarantee you that they're going to have to look at first down. They're going to be in the meeting room going, what did we do wrong on both sides on first down? And I mentioned this because Brown told me in July in Las Vegas, and other reporters too, but it was my question. He answered me that one thing that they were looking at is they've got to be better on the first play of a drive, either on a drive or in a series, a set of downs, because they were giving up too many first downs on first down, and they were giving up too many first downs on second down because of short yardage. And it happened again today. They were giving up big plays on first down, and they got nothing going themselves on first down.
There you go. I'm gonna piggyback on that. The number of Penn State touchdowns on first down, 4.
I would say it was
The
a four.
number
Okay.
of touchdowns on first down,
Yeah.
all 4 of them, or 4 of the 5. And then West Virginia, 3 turnovers on first downs. All 3
Hey,
of their turnovers came on first down. So
I missed the last one, but you're right. Yeah,
I guess that counts as 0 yards, right? That doesn't count as, does it count as negative when you turn it over on first down, or does
it
it
should
just
be
count
right.
as a 0?
It should be.
Not great.
What did
Um,
you what did you make of the red zone? Because that was an obsession for West Virginia. Again, something we saw again and again and again in camp. And again, I don't know, maybe I misled people, but I can just tell you what I see. And I saw them running cool stuff in the red zone, and I didn't see any of it today. And when I say red zone, like, yeah, I'm talking inside the 20. They talk like 25 in, 30 in sometimes. They call it a scoring zone. We quantify it as red zone because that's the stat you can track, and that's they use it in the notes, and they use it in the CFBstats.com, the NCAA stats, all that stuff. But once they get inside the 30 to 20, they want to score. Um, just not good enough today, too. I mean, a QB sneak that goes awry, some field goals. They do get a touchdown, but that was a chore too. Just nothing came easy. And then here's another thing too. In the first half, West Virginia had 3 snaps in the red zone, 3 snaps. Okay, 2 field goals and a failed fourth down. In the first half, Penn State had 2 snaps in the red zone, 2 touchdown passes. It was that
you're,
easy for Penn State and that difficult for West Virginia. Again, maybe we're making it too simple, but these simple things keep stacking up, and that's why this was a 22-point spread at the end.
there was one play that I singled out in particular. I was looking to make sure if I was seeing if it was in the red zone, close enough, 22-yard line, where I was like, oh no, because Green missed a wide open touchdown. And you knew exactly the play because you said you've seen it 100 times at fall camp already. It was a play that they run routinely. They do it over and over and over and over again. So he should know, like, this is, where it should go, who should be open, when you should throw it, all that stuff. And it was second down and 7 at the 22-yard line. Score is 0-0. And he throws it to blanketed Cole Taylor, while I believe it was Traylon Ray who had just broken free over the middle and was wide open with no one helping over top for a touchdown. I said, "Oh no." And you said, "Yep, they run that play all the time in practice." And again, this kind of goes to another comment that Neil Brown made in post game. So, was talking specifically about Green and said, he believes in his game, believes in his preparation, and today he just didn't play well.
Right.
And that could not be more true. Like, again, he has run that play 100 times. It was there. It was open. He just threw it to the wrong spot. So, to your point, they practiced it. They've worked it. It's there, and it was there today. But sometimes you just got to execute. It's on the players too.
One more stat I thought was interesting, and I'm going to borrow this from Stat Broadcast, but when they quantify big plays, which is I think 15 or more on the ground or 20 or more in the air, 15 to 11, okay, not a blowout, but 15 to 11 is not bad. West Virginia's 11 big plays covered 174 yards. So you're talking 12, 13 yards of play. Penn State's big plays covered 346 yards. So about double. Four more big plays, and double the yardage for West Virginia. It was that easy for Penn State. Like West Virginia was really working on things and trying to get it. Like to the point they outsnapped Penn State by 17 in the first half. I had the ball for 9 more minutes. They were being outgained by 80 yards. 17 fewer snaps, 80 more yards for Penn State. The average yard per snap in the first half, 9.2 to 3.7. Like those things add up. And again, you can look at this and you can look at the stat sheet and you know who won and you know why they won too. And that's pretty simple explanation there too. Any other performances individually or collectively that had your attention, whether it's good or bad? I think both are certainly up for discussion here. I have a few.
Well, let's start with something that I only put 2 sentences on it in the stock up, stock down, but I definitely feel like we need to talk about it.
Mhm.
Where were the tweaks to the defensive scheme that were supposed to get pressure on the quarterback? Were they there today, or is this a personnel issue again?
I mean, did they just like white out bandit and make it spur and that was a tweak? They sent that guy in a little bit, but I hardly noticed Ty French. Bradley got sometimes, past the line in the backfield, but Allard takes really deep drops, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Um,
it is really deep.
and maybe that's the arm, maybe because he was seeing things and he gets scrambled. That was one thing, but you're looking at a defensive line, Chris, that's going to play Martin, Mulba, and Vesterinen. Those are not sack artists, and you can get T.J. Jackson in, and we'll see if he can be productive at this level. He looked like he had some energy and he had some moves today, but if you're playing three defensive linemen who are not going to get sacks and aren't threats to that, you're going to have to generate it. And I can't say they did enough of that today. Like there was nothing coming from the linebacker spots. Aubrey Burks blitzed a little bit from his spear position, but I never saw Mike's coming through the middle. I saw Bradley a little bit. No corner blitzes, no safety blitzes, and if there were, they either weren't visible or weren't effective. I could not tell you what they did to turn the temperature up on Allard today, which is weird because last year, like you figure they learned a little bit from his not just the game last year, but the way he played last year too, and you try to affect him. But it's also possible they didn't want to get caught running past Allen and especially Singleton on a blitz and have to go get him.
Yeah, that was something that caught as far as big picture scheme stuff goes. That was something that caught my attention because I thought, you lose your safeties coach and then you make a big deal out of, hey, we're hiring this guy to just coach outside linebackers, just to coach the edge. We're going to tweak some things, we're going to change some things about the defense, we're going to change the name, whatever. Yeah, I don't care about that. But and then nothing. I mean, there was pressure was non-existent today. How about that, Mike? I gave three. Was it three stock ups? Looking at it here, thought Johnny Williams was. If you're just dying to find a silver lining, I he was not alarmingly bad when he got thrust into that situation against some really really good pass rushers, probably the best WV will face all year. Um, so the returning receivers were pretty good. Like I mean, again, they didn't get separation. Talking about Fox, Clement, Ray, but man, they made some tough catches. Like
I thought Clement
Green,
got open. I thought Clement got open. That's his thing. He gets open. He only got targeted twice. Am I
twice.
right?
Yeah, I was gonna say they weren't in the best situations there, and they made plays when they were given the opportunity.
Mhm.
And then I gave credit to the fans again because I know what's going to happen. People are going to. We've been doing this long enough. People are going to be upset. Probably not going to be a great showing in Albany next week. People are going to be mad about this game, and then somebody's going to say, "Oh, you're not true fans," or whatever it is. Fans did their part over the last 2 days. They showed out for the McAfee show. They showed out for the big noon kickoff. 62,000 plus today for the game. A lot of them sticking it out, even with that bad ending right before the rain delay. Anybody else you got positives on right now? I mean, I'm digging to the backup left tackle and the fans. So
Let's, I think that if you look at what Fox and Clement have done, they went out and they got receivers, which is sometimes an indictment of who you have. And Bray and Robinson were non-factors today. And the Bray thing surprises me because that's the guy that I saw and I heard about over and over and over. We went dark for a while, about 2 weeks into camp, where we didn't see anything, but you still heard good things about him. And I saw him just terrorizing defensive backs and being very good in the red zone. Never saw Justin Robinson do much. I don't know what he'll be this year. Fox probably should have had a first down on the play that Green threw behind him in the red zone. That really hurt. That was a big miss at the end of the first half, I believe, too. That keeps the clock going instead of stopping the clock. Penn State gets to keep their timeout. That really matters at the end of that drive. Is the decision to pass the ball there the best? The way they're running the ball, maybe, and it's open. So I think Brown is the type of person who doesn't necessarily review his decisions based on the outcomes, but on whether or not it was the right call. And when you've got an open receiver who's Preston Fox, he's supposed to make that catch. If you put it on him, he makes that catch. So I think those two guys, Clement and Fox, did not have great numbers. Probably should have been used more, but you have these new toys and you want to use them. And then this wasn't a game for Rick Darius Farmer. He got one touch. This wasn't a game for Jaden Bray, who the only touch he had for before he dropped the pass was getting hit on a errant snap. So it wasn't his game. It's not a game for Robinson. Kind of becomes clear. Traylon Ray's probably their best overall receiver, I think. And it becomes a game for him, Fox, and Clement. So maybe the incumbent receivers, it's a win for them. I wonder if we saw the end or at least the pause of the Rodney Gallagher on defense experiment. And Brown even said it was too fast for him. That's not great because it'll be slow next week. It might be a little bit faster against Pitt. It's going to speed up in the Big 12 again, too. And he's going to have to get on that same page quickly. And, they didn't play him there in the second half. He had some really iffy moments where the ball found him, whether it's having to cover a tight end in the slot on fourth down and he's way behind the chains, or on a jailbreak play where Ben Cutter's caught in man, he's going the wrong way and the running back's going the other direction. And it's not Gallagher's fault that the catch and run happens, but he's got to make the tackle before the goal line, and he just kind of lays down and lets the guy go over him. And we didn't see him after that. And it's a big task to ask a sophomore receiver to play defensive back against Penn State. I don't know how they're going to get him up to speed where he can be a factor on offense as well as defense, because the offense needs him. It doesn't have a lot of zip if it's not going to have guys like him or Farmer or speedy guys making plays. When he got a touch today, he looked pretty good. Little screen, had a wiggle inside, made a play, made something happen. That looked different than some of the other screens outside. I thought West Virginia got kind of picked apart in the screen game and on the outside in the perimeter by Penn State's defense, except that one there. That was productive. I wonder if and when we see that again. I think we'll see it again. I just don't know what it is. Like probably next week for sure. Fool's gold, maybe. And maybe this is just a bad game to use evidence against them. First time, really good opponent. I just wonder where that's going to go and when it'll happen.
Right. I mean, when Penn State guy asked me about that, I told him what, you had reported. Oh yeah, people were telling you he'll play on all three sides. It's legit. It's talk. I said, yeah, it won't happen in the first game. Maybe they'll do it in Duquesne and move forward. And he was out there for the first drive. And all I could think of was, and this is no offense to Gallagher, because again, he's been playing receiver. So like I wouldn't expect him to be some outstanding, nickelback, cornerback, whatever we're calling him. Things that bad right there that they need to turn to Gallagher to this at this point already. First drive of the first game of the season. They need him at that spot.
So
I mean, I'm assuming it
maybe,
is if
I
they
mean,
went that
maybe
way. Yeah.
because when they didn't do it, they put Garnes there, and that means that to put Dantes Fagan at corner. I'm not sure they feel great about that. I don't think Garnes had a great game on the outside either. So that maybe is a situation that's still a little bit glaring too. And then you probably can't play Burks at nickel, even though he can play the spear, just a different position. It might be the best bad idea at the point. We'll see. Also, want to mention, thought Trotter played pretty well too. Like he
Yeah.
hustled on some plays, and I mean he made some plays. Some of his tackles are helping put out a fire or get a guy down the field. And yeah, it's an 8 yard gain. He makes a tackle. It's not an 8 yard gain because of him. Like I thought him and actually TJ Jackson chased down some plays today where maybe they wouldn't be in it, but what might have been a 25 or 30 yard gain ends up being 11 or 7 because they were still in the play too. I want to make sure be positive with that one.
Yeah, I thought they were, and actually, I didn't think Lathan and Cutter were bad. I noted it in the stock down. Like, I felt like their issues were more with the pass defense and some of their eye discipline. Like, there was the one play where it was 3rd and 11. Lathan was pretty clearly like in a zone, maybe even a little bit of some spy duty, and Allard kind of dropped back, and Lathan just turned his whole head, his
Yeah.
whole body turned, looked that way, and Allard just said, okay, and ran straight forward and got a first down on 3rd and 11. And that's just poor eye discipline. That's just poor mechanics there. But again, their hustle and their tackling, not bad. So that was encouraging. Mike, have you trademarked WVU football the best bad idea yet? Is that already trademarked, or can we borrow that?
My step on the rake is patent pending. So we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer for that. Whether
Best bad idea. Okay.
was there anything or anybody new that caught your eye? Because I think we've talked about like there's going to be some new stuff, and like listen, they didn't run any like triple option stuff or any option stuff or hardly any RPO, and I thought they would. Um, the new players on offense just didn't think much. New players on defense, none of like Trotter was one. I thought Hollis had some moments there, especially like he came up and made some plays, but he also we found out about their number one receiver at Penn State, didn't we?
Yeah.
Weren't you? I was going to be. We found out about him. And then what was the new stuff on defense? I don't know, but that's me. Did you see anyone anything?
No, I am going to be very closely monitoring what happens on the back end moving forward because think I think you have something in Hollis. Again, we talked like the coaches were very excited about him and Garnes, and yeah, on Garnes today, maybe not. Hollis was a little better. We'll see about them. Fagan in his limited snaps made a couple plays, played some decent coverage, seemed to be in the right spots. We'll see. But that back end, I mean, the confusion and the big plays. I think it was 4 plays over 40 yards today,
Yeah.
Penn State, something like that. And a couple of those were runs, but safeties are supposed to be your last line of defense. And for multiple years now, West Virginia's defense has been prone to giving up enormous plays, not big plays, not 20-yard plays, 40, 50, 60-yard plays. And that's when you start looking at, a little bit of scheme, and you start looking at those safeties and what those guys are doing on the back end. And there were a couple more like that again today where it just seemed like there was some miscommunication, some confusion on the back end. And those are some new guys. Um, I'm curious to see the snaps. Don't recall seeing Jaheim Joseph that much until a little bit later in the game. I'm wondering if he might get some more snaps moving forward. It let's not name specific players, but who is, or don't tell me who is, will there be an Andrew Wilson Lamp of 2024? And by that I mean started week 1, out of the rotation by week 2,
Out of
and
the
gone.
rotation.
Like, I mean, what was he? I think he played 12 snaps against Duquesne or something like that and was gone by week 3. And special teams only from then on out. They're starting and playing like 50 snaps in the season opener.
I would worry
I mean,
about I would worry about Kikura Tarnu just because that was rough today at times for him. But that's not a position they have great depth. Does he end
yeah,
up playing corner or slot? I don't know. Could they do something with him where like I don't know. That's one I would watch. I think guard's gonna be a good player.
yeah,
There were some rough spots for him today, but there were rough spots for a lot of people too. Just
yeah,
they had good ideas on offense. Like that long 50-yard touchdown, they just cooked him with a pretty good idea. They motioned the guy in and ran like a switch route where the inside guy stays inside and doesn't go outside, and the outside guy stays outside and doesn't go inside. So you ran your outside guy in the post corner. The safety took the cheese that opened the middle, and that's Tarnu's mistake, but that happens sometimes. I mean, that could happen in the 11th game too. So that's one I would watch. And then just this is kind of maybe sacrilege, Chris, but if Jackson's going to be active and Martin's going to be just a big body who's getting you snaps, they obviously really like Sean Martin, but I think they really like him to be a little bit more disruptive. Today, does he have a tackle even today? He doesn't have a tackle, Chris.
yeah. I would say he started. He was out there, but
I thought
according to stat
Jackson,
broadcast,
in
zero
addition to a
turnovers.
fumble recovery where he was fast off the line, like he was in the backfield a couple times. He got some pressure on. He chased some plays down. I'd watch that snap count too because listen, this team tracks production. Production counts, and if you're producing in minimal snaps, you're going to get more snaps, and if you're not producing the snaps, you're going to get fewer. That defensive line has to be better and has to do more. And sometimes it might just be a personnel thing.
Well, Mike,
Let's
do you want to be the guy who puts the Q&A uh post on the board, or you want
What's
me
in the
to do
morning on
it?
that one? Hey, I wanna cap this off though, because I think we both got
Yeah,
this right. At the end of the preview podcast, we always ask who or what are we going to be talking about. You picked pass
offensive
protection
lineman.
and Wyatt Milan, right?
I said offensive line. Yeah,
And we
yeah.
certainly talked about the offensive line. The center was conspicuous. The whole left tackle thing, Wyatt Milan cramps up. They can't get the cramps to go away for 2 hours. He misses the whole second half of the game. And I went with turnovers because Penn State's been really good about taking the ball away and scoring off turnovers. Listen, getting 8.5 points a game off turnovers in football, that's pretty good. They were, I believe, +2 on turnovers today. Is that right? I don't have that in
Yeah.
front of me. 3 or 4. One,
West
two.
Virginia had four. Well, no, they had four fumbles, but only lost two of them,
Yeah.
so they only had
So
three turnovers.
they were +2. They got, and there were one turnover they lost. They got right back and they
Yeah.
scored 14 points off turnovers. So that's pretty good work right there. Actually, was it 14 or 13? I forget. They went, either way, 2 touchdowns off of turnovers and got one right back after they turned it over too. So that was gonna be an important thing. I thought you have to score 30 to win. They did. I thought that it was gonna be a closer game than it was. My bad. Don't get mad at me. I had faith, right? But like they did a lot of the stuff that we predicted and most pundits would predict you have to do to beat West Virginia, but also to play a good game, and they did. And at the end of it, Aller completes 11 passes, 3 more touchdowns. They give the ball to Singleton 13 times. They give it to Allen 10. It's 23 carries between those two, but one of them pops a couple 144 yards. That kind of attacks West Virginia's middle, which was a question. Their defensive line, their linebackers, see what happens. And it worked. Not a ton of surprises apart from the fact that West Virginia just didn't know how to get out of some trouble sometimes. So we'll see. But yeah, Q&A post coming up. We'll do the podcast Monday. I will have 3 things. I think 3 things I know. Snap count, some quotes and notes from the post game. Chris, what do you have on a first Sunday of the season?
Now we'll have some PFF grades coming in, some Big 12 rankings, I'm getting some responses from some recruits. Good news for those of you who are listening, watching. A lot of the recruits got out a long time right at the lightning delay, so they didn't have to witness what happened later. Might even been taking a nap on their car ride home. So that
Hey,
was
here's a
fun.
big one for you. Eight rushes of 10 or more yards for Penn State.
Mhm.
Quarterbacks had 5 of them.
Oof.
Got the over on Prabula carries too.
Yes, you did. Early, 11 minutes in the second quarter.
Let me
That
back in charity bets, Chris. I know what I'm doing now. Plenty more coming up in the site. Plenty more football left this season. 11 games for the Mountaineers. Next one, Saturday, Albany, 6 p.m. Hopefully it stays dry. Until then, I am Mike Casazzo.
and I'm Chris Anderson.
We will talk to you then.